Having covered in depth some of the control bar features, as well as the various views and panes that are found within Cakewalk by BandLab, let's now dive deeper into the very top portion of this screen, which contains the File, Edit, and Views menus. The first one we'll look at is File. The first option found up at the top is the New command. This opens the New Project File dialog box where you choose a template for a new file. Next option is the Open command, which opens the Open dialog box. Use the Open dialog box to open an existing project. And the next option in line is the Revert command, which opens the Revert dialog box, which allows you to load an earlier version of the current file. To use the Revert feature, file versioning must be enabled in the Edit, Preferences, File, and Advanced menu. The next option is the Close command, which closes the current project. If multiple projects are open, the project with focus is the one that is closed. And the next menu option is the Start Screen command, which opens the Start screen, which lets you perform the following tasks. You can either open recently accessed projects, open an existing project, start a new project, or create a new project from a template. The Save command saves the current project, and if multiple projects are open, the project with the focus is saved. The Save As command opens the Save As dialog box, where you can save a project with the name, directory, and the format that you specify. The following formats are available: Normal, which is also known as a project file, extension .cwp, a template, which saves the project's settings so you can use them with a new project, extension .cwt, the Cakewalk bundle, which contains all the audio and MIDI data, which is extension .cwb, MIDI format 0, which is standard MIDI file that has all channels merged into one track, and MIDI format 1, which is standard MIDI file that keeps each channel on a separate track. And lastly, RIFF MIDI format 0 and RIFF MIDI format 1. The next option, Save Copy As, is similar to the Save As command, but lets you save a copy of the current project under a different file name without closing the original project. The Save Copy As command opens the Save Copy As dialog box, where you can then save the project with the name, directory, and format that you specify, similar to the way that it was done before, without closing the current project. The next option down the list is the Import Audio command, which lets you import digital audio information stored in WAV file format into any track or stereo 2 tracks of a project. The audio command supports the following digital audio file types: .waves, MPEGs, Windows Media Files or WMA, Apple AIFF extensions, MS streaming formats, and audio file extensions such as .au or .snd. The sampling rate for a project is based on your default sampling rate. If the sampling rate from the WAV file does not match the sampling rate in your project, then it will be converted to the current project's sampling rate. The Import Audio CD command lets you import tracks from audio CDs into any track of your project. Any number of CD tracks can be imported. For each track selected, a new audio track is created in the project. The Audio CD command supports CD audio track files, extension .cda, and audio tracks on a CD always have a bit depth of 16, but you can choose to import the tracks at a higher bit depth if desired. Cakewalk's Import Video command lets you include an AVI, MPEG, or QuickTime video in your project. This video is shown in real time as your project plays. The video view displays the current time as in the Big Time view and the video itself. The display in the video view is synchronized with the Now time, giving you convenient random access to the video stream. This makes it easy to align music and digitize sound to the video. The Import MIDI command opens the Import MIDI dialog box. You must first select a MIDI track to make the command available, however. This dialog box lets you import MIDI files and Project 5 patterns. And lastly, the import BandLab project command lets you import a BandLab interchange or .blx file into the current project. To create a BandLab interchange file, export a BandLab project from the BandLab Assistant. Likewise, you can also drag BandLab interchange files and individual tracks from the media browser. In the media browser, select the BandLab project's content location preset to see all exported BandLab projects, as seen here. Along with your import options, you also have export options. The export audio command lets you save and export your projects as MP3 files and other types of formats. You can also use the export video command to combine the audio data and any video data in your Cakewalk project into a .avi file, Windows Media Video file, or QuickTime file. The audio in your project is mixed down automatically and saved with the video in the new file. The Export MIDI Groove Clip command opens the Export MIDI Groove Clip dialog box, and you must first select a MIDI groove clip to make the command available. Cakewalk's Export OMF command opens the Export OMF dialog box. The Export Standard MIDI File command lets you export the current project as a standard MIDI file. When using this export command, only MIDI data is exported, and the project must contain MIDI data first to make the command available. You can also use the Export as Track Template command, which opens up the Export Track Template dialog box. You can use this command to save a track template using the currently selected track as a template. The next option down the list is the Print command, which opens your system's print dialog box. And just beneath that is the Print Preview command, which opens the Cakewalk print window, where you can view your document before you print it. And lastly in this section is the Print Setup command, which opens your system's print setup dialog box. The next available menu tab to the right is the Edit menu. The first option is Undo, and the keyboard shortcut is located just to the right, Ctrl-Z. The Undo command reverses your last action, and successive undos cancel preceding actions in reverse order. The next option just below that is the Redo command, which cancels a just previous undo command. And the last option in this upper section is the History command, which opens the Undo History dialog, which displays a history of your editing actions. You can set how many editing actions you want the Undo History dialog box to store by changing the number in the Maximum Undo Steps field. The default value is 128. The next section is the Select section. The very first command is the Select All command, which selects everything in all open views, and any action that you take affects all the selected objects. The next option is the Select None command, which cancels all selections, with the result that nothing is selected. The section just below that starts off with the All Audio Snap and Stretched Clips command that selects all audio snap and stretched audio clips. And just below that is the Select by Filter command, which lets you change a selection to keep only events with the criteria that you specify. And the next option is to Select by Time, which lets you select a time range. The third section in the Select menu is the Select From = Now command, which lets you specify the now time as the time from which a selection extends. The from and through times you select appear in the control bar's Select module in the from and through fields. If you select a whole measure, the through time is the start of the next measure, which actually makes it a to time and not a through time. The Select Through = Now command lets you specify the now time as the time through which a selection extends. The Select From = Start command lets you specify the start of a piece as the time from which the selection extends. And lastly, the Through = End command lets you specify the end of a piece as the time through which a selection extends. The last section of the Select option that's found within the Edit menu allows you to enable or disable various options within the Select options. The first option, to select track envelopes with clips, will make it so that when selecting a clip, you will also select any overlapping track envelopes. The next option is the Select Events with Sections. By default, clicking an Arranger section also selects underlying track events. Clicking again deselects track events, while retaining the selection of the section. This behavior also allows you to easily determine whether or not track events are included in section edit operations. Note that the selection highlight in the Clips pane indicates selected track events. Therefore, to disable automatic selection of track events when selecting sections, disable the Select Events with Sections. The next option allows you to select sections with the time ruler in the Active Arranger track. When you enable this option, making a time selection in the time ruler will also select any overlapping Arranger sections in the Active Arranger track. And the last option is the Select Sections with Time Ruler All Arranger tracks. When you enable this option, making a time selection in the time ruler will also select any overlapping Arranger sections in all Arranger tracks. The next section in the Edit menu is the Aim Assist section. You can use this command to show or to hide the Aim Assist line, which is a vertical line that shows the mouse pointer's horizontal position in the Clips pane, as well as the vertical and horizontal position in the piano roll. When you enable the Show Aim Assist Time, you can use this command to show or hide Aim Assist text in the time ruler. The first option in the next section is the Cut command, which lets you remove from the project and put onto the clipboard any selected objects. If you want to specify what to cut, use the Edit Cut Special command instead to open the Cut dialog box. You can paste the contents of the clipboard elsewhere. The Copy command lets you put on the clipboard any selected objects. If you want to specify what to copy, use the Copy Special command instead to open the Copy dialog box. You can then paste the contents of the clipboard elsewhere. The Paste command lets you put the contents of the clipboard into any appropriate place in your project. If you want to specify what, where, and how to paste, use the Paste Special command instead to open the Paste dialog box. The Delete command removes selected objects from the project. It doesn't put them on the clipboard, so they cannot be subsequently pasted. If you want to specify what to delete, use the Delete Special command, which instead opens the Delete dialog box. The last option found on the Edit tab is the Preferences command, which opens the Preferences dialog box, which lets you configure various settings within Cakewalk by BandLab. The next tab we'll be covering is the Views menu. At the very first section of the Views menu, you can see that you can enable or disable the control bar from here. And just beneath that is the Track View command, which displays the track view. If I was to click this now, it would do nothing because the track view is actually already present here. And next in line is the Browser option to open the browser view. As you can see, the browser view is closed now, and I'll open it again. From the browser view, you can import and preview files without having to leave your work environment. The next option is the Inspector view. The Track Inspector and Properties Inspector provide easy access to relevant settings for the selected tracks and/or clips. The next option we have is the Console View command. The console view contains all the controls that you need to mix your project. The next option is the Piano Roll view. The Piano Roll view displays all MIDI notes and events from one or more tracks in a grid format that looks much like a player piano roll. Notes are played as horizontal bars and drum notes as diamonds. Pitch runs from bottom to top with the left vertical margin indicating the pitches as piano keys or note names. Time is displayed running left to right with vertical measure and beat boundaries. The Piano Roll view makes it easy to add, edit, and delete notes and controller data from a track. The next view is the Step Sequencer. You can either open the Step Sequencer from the Views menu as we've just done, or by double-clipping on a Step Sequencer clip. This view is disabled if multiple Step Sequencer clips are selected. Next on the list is the Matrix view. The Matrix view lets you trigger individual or multiple audio and MIDI patterns, either with a computer keyboard, mouse, or via MIDI remote controller. The next option is the Staff view. The staff view contains the staff pane and the fretboard. The staff pane displays MIDI note events as musical notation, and the fretboard displays MIDI notes as markers on a guitar fretboard. The staff view provides many features that make it possible for you to compose, edit, and even print your music. The next available view is the synth rack view. This pulls up a small dialog box on the right-hand side of the screen, as you can see here, which shows all of the synths that you currently have in a running project. From here, you can insert new synths, delete ones that are already present, look at their properties, and insert soft synth options. You can also mute, solo, and freeze the synth from here. In the next section, we have the Audio Snap palette. The Audio Snap palette command opens the Audio Snap palette, which allows you to set Audio Snap options. The next option is the Loop Construction command. The Loop Construction view allows you to create groove clips and enable looping of clips. The next option that is present is the Event List. The Event List view shows events in a list format. You can insert, delete, or modify any kind of event, including notes, pitch wheel data, velocity, MIDI controllers, patch changes, wave files, lyrics, text strings, MCI commands, and even system-exclusive meta events, and more. The next view that's available is the Lyrics view. You can use it to cue yourself or your group with the lyrics during playback and recording. The next view that's available is the Video view. The Video view lets you load digitized video files and play them back with your project. Just below that is the Big Time view. The Big Time view lets you see the now time from a distance while recording. By right-clicking within the Big Time view, you have several options available as well. And the next view that's available is the Markers view. The Markers view lets you add, move, rename, or even delete marker labels for places in your song. And from experience, I can tell you that markers make it easier to move from one point to another, especially in densely populated mixes. The next available view is the Tempo view. The Tempo view provides a graphic display of the tempo. In the Tempo view, you can use your mouse to draw tempo changes directly onto the graph. The next available view is the Meter or Key view. The Meter and Key view lets you set and change the meter and key signature for any project or part of a project over all of its tracks. The next available view is the 𝗧𝗵𝗲 view. The 𝗧𝗵𝗲 view gives you 256 banks to hold MIDI system-exclusive messages. The next option available is the Navigator view. The Navigator view gives you an overview of your entire project. The next available view is the Surround Panner view. The Surround Panner allows you to control the output levels for each of your inputs. The next available view is for the virtual controllers. You can open the virtual piano keyboard by using the Virtual Controllers View option. The on-screen MIDI keyboard can be routed to MIDI and instrument tracks and lets you easily record a performance using a mouse or by tapping on a multi-touch enabled monitor. The next available view is for the Help module. The Help module is a window that dynamically shows contextual help for various user interface elements in Cakewalk by BandLab. Simply point to a UI element for a brief moment, and the Help module displays a short description of the UI element. Observe. In the next section of the Views menu, we have the global command that hides or shows icons in all applicable views. And lastly, we have the option to view the various screen sets. The next tab is the Insert tab. From here, we can insert audio tracks, MIDI tracks, soft synth, rewire devices, or even multiple tracks at once. We can also insert within the project track folders, track templates, stereo buses, surround buses, or even add a bank or pack change and series of controllers. The next tab to the right is the Process tab. The first option that we have is the Apply Effect command. Applying an audio effect means that the audio data that you apply the effect to is permanently altered to sound like it would if it was flowing through an effects processor in real time. Applying an effect in this way saves a lot of your processor's power for other tasks that must be done in real time. Clicking OK in this dialog box applies any audio effects that are patched into the track inserts, but does not apply effects that are patched into a bus. You can also select the Delete the effects from this track inserts checkbox to remove the real-time effects from the track inserts after you apply them, so the audio data does not receive a double dose of the same effects. The next option is to apply MIDI effects, which allows you to apply any MIDI effects that are patched into a track to all selected data in that track. Applying a MIDI effect means that the MIDI data that you apply to the effect is permanently altered to sound like it would if it was flowing through an effects processor in real time. The same options apply to the MIDI effects that apply as well to the audio effects. The next option is to remove silence. The remove silence command detects sections of audio that fall below a given loudness threshold and replaces those sections with absolute silence. In the next section, we have the gain command. The gain command can adjust stereo channels independently, switch channels, invert the phase of one or both channels, and produce any amount of possible gain or cut values. The option just below this is the normalize command, which lets you increase the volume of the selected clips or tracks to the maximum level possible before clipping. And next is the remove DC offset command, which lets you remove artifacts from audio files caused by DC offset. In the next section, the first option for an apply effect is the fade envelope command, which lets you specify accurately the shape of a fade for a selection clip or track. From here, you can also specify various curves, including exponential fade in, exponential fade out, inverse exponential fade in, or inverse exponential fade out, linear fade in, and linear fade out. Likewise, you can manipulate any curve in the dialog box to look exactly as you want. The next apply effect option is crossfade. The crossfade command lets you specify accurately the shape of a crossfade for two overlapping audio clips. Lastly, there is the apply reverse effect command, which reverses audio data, making it play backwards. You may want to do this from time to time to obtain unusual sounds for special effects, such as a reverse cymbal. The next section found within the upper portion of the Process tab is the Quantize command, which opens the Quantize dialog. This command adjusts the start time and duration of selected notes so that they line up with the fixed size grid. In the Quantize dialog box, you can adjust the resolution of the grid or the note size and specify which track properties you want to allow the command to change. The last option in the upper portion of this section is the Groove Quantize command. This command adjusts the start time and duration of selected notes using a music piece as a pattern. In the Quantize dialog box, you assign the groove pattern you want to use, extension .grv. Adjust the resolution of the grid or the note size and specify which track properties you want to allow the command to change. The first option in the second section of the Process tab is the Transpose option. The Transpose command transposes the pitches of note events up or down by a fixed number of half steps. It does so by changing the MIDI key numbers of note events and by pitch shifting audio clips. Simply enter the number of half steps in the amount field of the Transpose dialog box, a negative number to transpose down, a positive number to transpose up. Cakewalk by BandLab can also perform diatonic transposition, which shifts all of the notes up and down the major scale of the current time signature by the designated number of steps. For instance, if you specify an amount of +1 and the key signature is C major, a C becomes a D, which is up a whole step. An E then becomes an F, up a half step, and so on. Diatonic transposition assures you that the transposed notes fit with the original key signature. As an option, you can choose to transpose selected audio clips along with any selected MIDI clips. Cakewalk uses pitch shifting to perform that transposition. You can transpose audio only a single octave in either direction, -12 to +12, and you cannot transpose audio when you are using diatonic transposition. The next option is the slide command, which opens the slide dialog box. You can move a selected track and or its markers by a set amount of measures, ticks, seconds, or frames. Positive numbers move the track to the right or forward, and negative numbers move the track left or backward. The next menu option is the nudge option. The nudge command lets you move a selected clip to the left or to the right by any number of 3 increments that you set in the nudge section under Edit, Preferences, Customation, and Nudge. You can also assign a hotkey shortcut for this command. And just after the nudge option, we have the find or change command. The find or change command is an extremely flexible way of manipulating the data parameters of events. It works something like the search and replace function in a word processor, but with scaling rather than simple replacement. And the next option is the length command. The length command can be used to stretch or shrink a portion of a project. The stretching and or shrinking of the selection is by a fixed percentage and makes the adjustment by altering the individual events. A value of 200%, for example, stretches the selection to twice its original length, while a value of 50% shrinks the selection to half its original length. This command offers the option to stretch audio clips along with the MIDI information as well. Sometimes you don't want to adjust the speed of your audio, so audio can be stretched or condensed up to a factor of 4. Or, for example, it can be shrunk to as little as 25% of its original length or expanded to as much as 400% of its original length. And the next option is the scale velocity command, which lets you create crescendos or volume swells and decrescendos on those instruments that respond to MIDI velocity. Most such instruments map changes in velocity to change in note loudness. Many synthesizer patches alter the timbre of the sound as well, so that the higher velocities produce brighter as well as louder sounds. Changes in velocity also affect the playback of audio clips. This command lets you set a starting and ending velocity for the entire time range of the selection. Cakewalk by BandLab scales the velocity of each event to create a smooth, linear change in velocity. As an option, you can enter a starting and ending percentage. Existing velocity values are modified by the designated percentage. And you can also edit note velocities in the Notes pane of the piano roll view, which lets you draw shapes other than the straight line changes. The next process menu option is the retrograde command, which reverses the order of events in a selection. If one or more clips are selected, then the events within each clip are reversed. If several clips are selected for the same track, then the order of the clips is also reversed. You could use this command, for example, to take a scale or other long run of notes and reverse the order in which they're played. The retrograde command does not reverse the contents of audio clips. It only changes their start times. Because the retrograde command does not reverse the content of audio clips, you always have the option to go back up to Apply Effect and Reverse. The next option is the deglitch command, which opens the deglitch dialog box. When recording MIDI guitar, even the best players occasionally play unintended notes. The deglitch feature allows you to filter out many of these unintended notes. There are 3 filters in the deglitch dialog: pitch, velocity, and duration. And each of these can be used to hone in on those notes that were unintended to be played. The next option is the fit to time option. The fit to time stretches or shrinks the selection so that it ends at a specific time, expressed in either measure, beat, or ticks, or hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. This command gives you a choice of modifying the events or modifying the underlying tempo. This is useful when you want to alter a portion of a project to have an exact length. The start time of the selection does not change, but the end time is altered as necessary to fit the required time interval. The last option in this section is the fit improvisation. Cakewalk by BandLab lets you record music from a MIDI controller without requiring that you used a fixed tempo. But if you record without using a metronome, you're also very likely to end up with a recording that does not fit onto a fixed tempo grid. The fit improvisation command lets you take a recording and create a tempo map. This tempo map contains measure and beat boundaries that fits what you played. Now, your performance is not changed in any way. even though the note start times and durations are adjusted to fit the new tempo map. To use this command, you must record a reference track containing a single clip that matches the original track or tracks, that has only a single note on each boundary. You should make sure that the reference track has only one event for every single beat, with no extra beats or missing beats. You should also align the first beat of the track accordingly, and you can use any editing commands to adjust that reference track. The last option on the Process tab is the Run Cal command, which enables you to run Cal programs. Cal, or Cakewalk Application Language Programs, are event processing language that is used to extend Cakewalk with custom editing commands. You can either write your own Cal program and use or edit Cal programs that other people have written as well. Cal files are stored on the disk in files with an extension of .cal. The next tab to the right is the Project tab. The first option in the upper section is the Audio Files option, which displays all of the audio files that are currently found within a given project, as well as their bit depth, their file size, and their status. From this tab, you can also insert meter and key changes, tempo changes, a series of tempos, or even insert time and measures. You can also insert markers, set your default groove clip pitch, set your time code at now, or set measure and beats at now. And the next tab we'll look at is the Utilities tab. The first option found within the Utilities tab is the Consolidate Project Audio option. This copies all the audio used by the current project into a subfolder of the project's audio folder. Use this command to create a backup of your project's audio. Just below that is the Clean Audio Folder option. You can use the Clean Audio Folder command to delete digital files from an audio data directory that are no longer used by any of your projects. You should use this command from time to time to free up disk space. It is important to note, however, that you need to make sure that all of your important project .cwp and .wrk files are stored in your local hard disks before using this command. If your project files are stored elsewhere, such as a removable drive or network drive, you can risk accidentally deleting important audio files that are associated with your projects. The next option within the Utilities tab is the Change Audio Format command. You can use the Change Audio Format command if you want to rewrite the audio in a project to a different bit depth. However, your sound card must be capable of playing the project at the new bit depth. The last option in this upper section of the Utilities tab is the Burn Audio CD command that lets you burn your tracks to an audio CD that you can play in any standard CD player. In the next section, we have the BandLab Assistant option, which opens up the BandLab Assistant dialog box. Just below that is the CWAF tool command, which opens the Cakewalk Audio Finder tool, which lets you locate audio files that are used in your Cakewalk projects. The next option is the External Encoder Configuration Utility command, which opens the Cakewalk Encoder Configuration Utility, which lets you configure external audio encoders so that you can use them seamlessly in Cakewalk's Export Audio dialog box. The next option is the ability to open up Lander Online Mastering within Cakewalk by BandLab. The last option in the second section of the Utilities tab is the Cakewalk Plugin Manager. The Cakewalk Plugin Manager lets you control how plugins behave and how they appear in Cakewalk's plugin lists and menus. From the Plugin Manager dialog box, you can scan your VST plugins, reset or create new scan paths, and also create custom plugin menu layouts, such as the one that I've created here called Organized by Type. As you'll see, I have a folder named Vocals, and all of the plugins that I would currently use for vocals are going to be in this particular file. I've done so accordingly for all of the others, and now when I go to insert a plugin and I go to insert audio effects, you can see that all of this appears just as it did within the plugin menu layout. Those plugin layouts can be accessible at the very top portion of the menu when you right-click in an FX bin and go to Insert Audio Effects. By default, you can also sort by category, by manufacturer, or by type. And by clicking Manage Layouts, you open the Cakewalk Plugin Manager dialog box again. Lastly, if you have a MIDI controller that is currently mapped to something within your project using the ACT feature, it will show up at the bottom of this as well. By opening this dialog box, you can change anything within that MIDI controller that you'd like and even save it as a preset for later. The next tab is the Window tab. From here, you can choose whether or not Cakewalk will run in full screen mode or in windowed mode. The last tab found at the top of the screen is the Help tab. By clicking Get Started, you open the onboarding wizard, which lets you configure basic default settings such as audio and MIDI devices. The documentation option will open up the online portion of Cakewalk's documentation. And by selecting the keyboard shortcuts option, it opens up the online documentation for the various keyboard shortcuts found within Cakewalk by BandLab. The support option opens up your web browser to the Cakewalk support web page. The User Forums option opens up your web browser to Cakewalk's user forum. By clicking on What's New, your browser is opened up to give you the release notes for the latest updates for Cakewalk by BandLab. The next option will allow you to check for any updates that may be available. The option below that allows for offline activation, and the About Cakewalk option will open up this dialog box, which will display the serial number of your particular version as well as the version that you are currently on.